let's recap Oklahoma's epic win against Alabama and early preview, Oklahoma at LSU. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time here, consider hitting the like and subscribe button because unless yesterday was a day, you can find segments right here on the channel where we do the show. We do live shows as we need it to. I could explain what was going on Saturday, but I just preferred to move on and say, oh my God, I was as ecstatic and as excited as all of you who root for OU as I was watching Oklahoma put together its identity in a must-have-it situation against one of the best teams in college football. And Oklahoma gets to say two things off the rip. One, Alabama only comes to the state of Oklahoma to get that ass beat. Last time they was here, 21 years ago, handed them that L, pat them on the behind, put them out the door. This year, Oklahoma gets to be the Alabama state champ as OU did not play Tulsa or Oklahoma State. I guess the Alabama state championship will have to do. The other, and I think this is much more cool and actually more important, OU is bowl eligible, which means that Oklahoma has been bowl eligible for 26 years in a row, and I was going to be beside myself if that was not the case in Oklahoma's first year in the SEC. No, the season has not gone the way that I thought it would go, or many OU fans would think it would go. But when I said that Oklahoma isn't just having to play the SEC, that it's the SEC that has to play Oklahoma, it's because things like last night happen all the time in this league. There is no easy win. Auburn taught Texas A&M that lesson too. We're watching as mostly Oklahoma and Auburn facilitated Georgia getting to play in the SEC championship game, regardless of what happens in some of the bigger games this weekend, including Oklahoma, LSU, and the Iron Bowl, Alabama, Auburn. I was as pleased as anybody to find that Xavier Robinson had made himself the main character in this, along with Eli Bowen, who decided to have a breakout performance with his pick six. Jalen Milroe had to play the game that I thought he would need to play for Oklahoma to have a chance, and that was you were going to need it to be nasty on their side of the football field offensively, and you would need him to give you the football. He threw it away 3 times, but the thing that I think most people would be so excited about, and the thing that I want to impress upon you is Oklahoma was outstanding in defense. Yes, the offense has found an identity of being run heavy, so much so that in the last 20 years, only 2 quarterbacks have rushed for more than 130 yards against Alabama. One of them was Jaden Daniels last year, who won the Heisman Trophy, and the other one was Jackson Arnold this year, who rushed for 131 yards. I got text messages asking, hey, what do you think about him missing all of these wide open receivers as there are pass plays that are being called when he's being running? And I said, hey, with this ballerina, we just got to take what we can get. He can get skittish, and his confidence can go on the floor really quickly. We saw that against Missouri. He'll put the ball on the floor. He'll throw it to other people. He didn't do none of that. And because Oklahoma played mostly mistake-free football, you get a 21-point victory against a team that was assured an entry into the SEC championship game if only they win out, and was assured a place in the college football playoff game if only they make the SEC college football playoff 12 team, if only they make the SEC championship game. And it felt like Jalen Milroe just had that 4-leaf clover somewhere stuck behind him because they found their way to the SEC championship game last year against a Georgia team that we thought was dominant, and they won. This year, it felt like even as Alabama had lost 2 games before the month of November for the first time since 2007, that they were still going to make the SEC championship game, and it felt like Oklahoma was going to get run through the way that Alabama had played against LSU particularly, and I just didn't see Oklahoma having a real great game plan to stop Jalen Milroe running all up and down the Sooner defense like he did the LSU defense. But 2 things that I think I need to remind myself, and I will remind you. Brent Venables does not sleep. He schemes. That was apparent. They had a plan, and they executed at a very high level. Danny Stutzman played an outstanding football game. R. Mason Thomas played an outstanding football game. They were getting home. They were getting home with 4, and when they sent an extra man, Alabama didn't know what to do. Guys were outstanding in blitz and in coverage, frankly, being able to stop Ryan Williams, being able to stop Jeremy Bernard, holding Jalen Milroe to just 164 passing yards. It was a remarkable performance, and I'm grateful to have witnessed it on screen, if not been able to talk about it immediately after the game ended. Looking ahead to Oklahoma versus LSU, One of the things that I want to point you to is it's a different offensive team than the one that Oklahoma faced, right? Alabama, right? That Oklahoma faced playing Alabama. They both have great tailbacks, and stopping Jam Miller is a great start to being able to stop Caden Durham. And this is the part where I have to acknowledge that Caden Durham is from Oklahoma City. And I know what the recruiting was like. I know what the recruiting means. I'm also just going to remind you that any great talent that leaves the state of Oklahoma, I'm going to say, hey, we should have had that guy. Even if there's not a way for you to get that guy, and I understand what the optics might look like, you still have to try because Oklahoma continues to create stars for other people. Josh Jacobs went to McLean, Alabama. Dax Hill went to Booker T, Michigan. Josh Proctor went to Owasso, Ohio State. And now Caden Durham, Millwood, ends up at LSU. And, frankly, has come into his own. Outstanding tailback. Like, I'm excited to see what he can do, not necessarily this week, but just in general throughout his career. On the other side, you got a Garrett Nussmeier that knows how to facilitate the offense. He's going to pass for over 3,500 yards this season with his first 50-plus yards passing against Oklahoma. He has been the offense for them. He has been the reason that they have been able to win games offensively. He will find guys that are open. If Kyron Lacey is healthy, look out. It could be a long day for OU. Defensively, I think that Oklahoma's got more than a chance to beat this team. Like, they're not that great against the kind of offense that Oklahoma's likely to show them. One where you're going to run the football with the quarterback, use the extra man, try to pull with the tailbacks. This is what South Carolina was able to do against Alabama. This is what South Carolina was able to do against LSU. This is what Marcel Reed and Texas A&M was able to do against LSU. We're built offensively to take advantage of that LSU defense. Defensively, they're also very young in the secondary, so you might get some guys downfield, and that's the other part about this that I love. Oklahoma's offensive line shambles the whole year. The injuries are not going to be talked about outside of the state of Oklahoma nationally except by me, but that's because most of my national colleagues don't care and aren't really into the narrative that Oklahoma was decimated. Offensive line decimated at wide receiver, and in some places defensively. It's just going to be Oklahoma didn't live up to the billing. Okay, fine. As Texas is probably in a dogfight with A&M looking like they could make that SEC championship game and give us a rematch of Georgia-Texas, which I would be in for because I ain't got no dog in that fight, and those two teams are really good to and watch to play. That said, I think Oklahoma gets to 7 wins here, man. We're talking about an 8-win season when it looked like Oklahoma was dead in the water. I got a real kick out of one of my colleagues pointing out that OU had not beaten an FBS opponent since September, and I'm going, hey, dog, we beat Auburn on September 28th. Chill out with that, okay? Like, yeah, a month of not beating FBS opponents means that we played really damn good football teams like South Carolina. You know what I'm saying? Like, you look around, and teams that we didn't expect to be good, like South Carolina, are. Vanderbilt, great this year. Mississippi State looked like they were dead in the water. They've been giving people the business this year. I mean, even Auburn showed up and showed out against an A&M team. All they had to do was win that game, and Auburn got a 21-0 lead. It goes into quadruple overtime, and it leads to what we're doing now. Mostly, I'm just excited about where Oklahoma is headed, and I think you should be too.